Hello and welcome to the first Artist Focus of the spring edition. I am delighted to be with you all here today with Yvette Teeuwen. I first met Yvette at the Flow 2021 symposium, and we were both participating in a workshop by Dimple B. Shah. And I, in just in a little brief introduction, because you can see all of the, you can read more about her in the bio that is included in this broadcast. But I just want to kind of share with you that Yvette is living in the cultural city of The Hague, where you just viewed this performance. And she studied at The Hague's Royal Academy of Fine Arts from 1997 to 2001. She has participated in performance workshops with Johannes Demling, Marilyn Awesome at the Flow Symposium in 2021, and has also created work in. She has exhibited widely in The Hague, Amsterdam, Dordrecht, Rotterdam, and Valencia, Spain, Kassel, Germany, India, the US, Chile and Brazil, Bolivia, Argentina, Mexico, India, Colombia, and Belgium. And there's many more international invitations on her bio, which you can read in the body of this podcast. So welcome, Yvette. It's such a pleasure to be with you here today.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it's nice. Nice you invited me.
So I really was, wanted to share this first piece, Red, that is on the ruins of an old World War II bomber. And when I first saw this video, I was just, so delighted when I saw these teenagers, respond by surprise to, the embodied movements. And you had this kind of communication through an embodied exchange. Can you share, what is your body work? What does your daily body work practice look like? How do you prepare your body in a daily way? And then how do you also prepare for your performances?
Yes, good question. Yeah, I have several ways. The first thing is that my working studio is actually also my house. So I'm very much a morning person. So when I wake up, I enter my big space, and I always awake with a lot of ideas. So there's always something that's fascinating me, like momentarily water, but also sometimes it can be something like that I wake up and my hair is like looking very weird, and I think like, oh, maybe I can use that. So then I have this one space where there's a white wall, and this is the place where I make a lot of performative photography, and it's very playful. So it's like not like I'm preparing a performance. So it is very, yeah, it's very open to experiment and not the pressure of making something. And then actually all these performative photos are a lot of times the pre-works for new works. So this is something I do like, yeah, very easily in between things. And besides, like very bodily wise, I practice now for I think 15 or 20 years, maybe even, Qigong exercises. And Qigong is a little bit like, you can compare it with Tai Chi or yoga, but it's very simple. You do exercise with the body, which makes you more relaxed, come more out of the head, more in your body awareness, and you let go of the things that are not needed anymore in your body, like like tensions or other stuff, and you revitalize in a way. And I do that every morning for half an hour, and also in the evening before I go to bed. So it's very much part of daily life, but it brings me this basis feeling of connection with my body. So the moment that I have a certain emotion in the day and I don't want to feel it, as we are humans always want to sort of suppress things, this practice also helps me to come back and to be to be with what is there. So when I perform, actually I do the same. I make contact with well, for instance, with this bomber, I found this beautiful place hidden in the sand, and I just have myself, and there's this bunker, and there's this space. So you have really small starting points, but actually they're already a lot because they're vivid. Like my body is very vivid because I'm alive, and this bunker is not vivid in a human way, but it's very vivid in a way that it has a or history or emotions that might be still there, like from the people who were there in the World War. So I connect with all these layers. And when you do that every day with yourself, even when you're trying to connect and you are not connecting, something is happening. So I think there's so much more that we have access to. And yeah, it's very nice to notice now for myself after 15 or 20 years that it's become very much part of everything, not only an exercise, but also my art. And yeah, it helps me to connect with people, with a place, with an object, with the energy of an object or the atmosphere. And it's like constantly coming back to yourself, to your emotions, to your being, to your inner source. And maybe I can tell something about that later, but I really believe in that we have a lot of layers built up because of society also that we're not aware of. And what I try to do in essence with all my performances, if I do it outside or inside, always I'm trying to get back to this inner source, this primordial place within, where there's a lot of knowledge, but I don't know I'm carrying this knowledge. So I want to dive in myself, connect with that, and bring it out. And every time I do that, I'm like happy, like, ooh, I found something again. But then again, I'm like, ooh, but there's more. So I will always be driven to try something new, like something I find scary, or like this bunker was safe in a way because there were no people. And then when I do something, you open up, I don't know, the place or the energy, and then suddenly there's all these youngsters that also have something with this place, maybe also a fascination with what is this building, or maybe they are fascinated by it because there's no parents there, like it's their world. But that moment it was also my world, so these two worlds come together, and you connect. And then other times I go to a place what I find more scary, like a big square in the middle of the city where a lot of people see me. So I will be in a different state. But always I will try to open more my state of being. And the more I open myself, I can also invite others to connect, but also maybe invite them to open up. Yeah, so it's a long story maybe, but it's like I believe in this connection between everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention as well that maybe you could talk, share a little bit about this, because you first, when you finished your undergrad, you started creating situational works in public space. So you started working in public space from the outset.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about the context of those
Yes.
works?
Yeah, when I graduated in the academy here in The Hague, I did a lot of different things because I like experimenting. So I made videos, installations, photography. Performance was very new for me. I think I just saw one performance during the academy that really opened me up, but then it went away for a very long time, but it was still there. And then I graduated and I got 5 invitations for exhibitions and I showed my work. But at a certain point, I was like, it's nice, but I want to do new stuff. So I also always ask, okay, you can show my graduation work, but I also want to do something new. So in one place, I made an installation and it was finished and I was ready. And it was only 1 week before the opening. But I felt like, I just had this insight, like when I show this installation, and it was very a space where you could only enter from 2 places. I was very much aware, like, okay, people can stand here and watch it. They can stand here. There was not a lot of space. And it just struck me that, this is in a way very rigid. They're going to see it from there. It's very static. It's an installation. They can walk through it, but they can also, it's very easily to let go of this artwork and go dive into your own world. And, I wanted something more vivid. So I was really like, what can I find? What can I find? And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I had this image of black capes, and I made them. And it was pure on intuition. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but I did a very big step in my work, because I was no longer the performer who is like doing the performance for the audience. I took away the separation in a way between performer and me and the public, and installation that's more like static. So I offered the capes when people would enter the gallery, and I would just simply offer the possibility of a black cape. So I said, do you want to wear this cape? If yes, okay. If no, also totally okay. So we had this separation of people with capes, people without capes, and me being in the back somewhere. I didn't say anything anymore. I didn't say to them, you have to do this or that. So they were a bit like on their own, and they kept on walking, looking at the other art. But the people without cape were actually looking a bit afraid, going to one wall, all standing there. And I heard them say like, but who are these people in capes? But they had the same question. And they said, but they're going to do a performance. But they were not going to do a performance. So it played a lot with all your thoughts, all your imagination things, also what you expect from art. And these people with capes were also just being themselves, and also maybe changed because of the posture of the black cape and the power they had. So I did a lot of, like for 7 years, I did a lot of different situation work. So this was in the gallery, but later on they could also walk with the capes outside. I made a very big red curtain in Rotterdam, which was in the middle of a street, which was the biggest situation work I did. I was hired to make a new work, and I could really make this 15 meters long and 5 meters high. And it would stop everybody walking in the street going from A to B. So the whole situation of the street was totally changed. Like you had this expectation, I want to go there to the end of the street, but you could not for a few minutes. Then the curtain would open and people would enter, but also from the other side, people would come like, oh, but what are you doing? Or maybe I thought they were going to do something, or theater, you get all these ideas. And then they meet each other, and then they walk again, and they have this different experience of the street. Like it's public space, but can you make another space of it, or make 2 spaces of it? And then I had another curtain that would also close at certain points, and then they were all trapped together. And then I would play very hard DJ party music, and people had this opportunity to have a party space and party. Some people did, some did not, which is all again part of the work. So I don't say anymore how to do. I don't do anything for them. I let them be the work. So I was very much not in the performer place, but I think there it did already develop a lot of stuff in me about being a conscious performer. What do you offer to the public? What freedom do you also? I think I find it very important that as a performer, you really choose to do certain things which have a big impact.
Mm.
but also to keep a lot of freedom for this public to experience it and be very much part of the performance. I think there maybe, if you ask me this question, I think there's already things happening that are also in my solo performances right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I love about the video read as well is there's that moment of surprise.
Mm,
It's an offering. It brings joy to people's lives. When they encounter something completely out of the ordinary. For that little moment, it kind of brightens up our lives. So, and I think but these encounters, these exchanges can also expand joy. When somebody, has had a great experience, they then share that joy as they go about their day. So
yeah.
it's the expansion
Mm,
of care, in our society. Um, so I want to, because I want to move to the next piece, if that's okay.
yes. Yes.
Do you want to share anything about it, or should we just hop straight in?
Yeah, I can only share like the basic stuff, that it's like four, that I went to Kassel in Germany, and that I did four performances where I was very much working with with water. Let's keep it like that. I won't say a lot. You can always explain more later. Yeah, four different performances.
So yes, I love the titles that you've used on these pieces, you know, because they just contain a lot of poetry, and I really love the title "Water, Breath of Life." You know, in Old Scots we have a special word, um, and it's called usquabi, and it's water of life. You know, and I wondered, you know, what the inspiration for these pieces on water was.
Yes. Well, actually, I had heard of Emoto, which is a Japanese scientist a few years ago already, and I saw a lot of pictures of him. And that book came across my, yeah, I think in January around my birthday, I got it from somebody. And then it struck me even more. And Emoto he's very well known now around the world, but he wasn't for a very long time because he tried to show and prove to us that the water in his convenience has a consciousness. It has the potential to pick up words in a positive or negative sin, and it will have a big effect on the water. And he
Mm,
showed this by making photographs of the water when it was iced, when it was ice, I mean, and the crystals that appeared when there were like positive words written on the bottle of the water. It would be like very harmonious, very beautiful, and very inspiring. And when he put some negative words on it, there would not even grow crystals, or they would be like, yeah, like with holes in it, or not so nice. So he was like, wow, what is this? And he kept on going with his research. And after I think 7 years or something, he had so much material that he was still like showing it to people, and then it was proven. So for me, it's also interesting that there's so many things we don't believe in, or there's so many much more happening that we're not aware of, or that we already take out of as possibilities. So what I really like about him is that he was able to combine science with images, with yeah, with deep connections, with his passion also. So when I saw the images again, I don't know, somehow it really struck me, and I felt like working with water. So when I went to Kassel, I was invited there with 54 other performers from all over the world, and it was this big project during the Documenta 15, and it's called Overlapping, as you can see in the yeah,
uh,
the population we just
the-
got. Yeah.
I love it. I don't know if you
Oh yeah.
realize this, but lapping is
Yeah.
also a term for water.
Really?
Yes, yes, in English, it's
Lapping.
lapping. You know, the
Oh.
water laps onto the beach.
Oh wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
each title, you know, overlapping, you know,
Overlapping.
it's are overlapping.
Very
Um,
well.
yeah. So it's yeah, and I mean, I think this idea of, you know, this we lost you for just a second in that, but I think, you know, at the moment where you were talking about how he discovered that the crystals made with the positive words
Yeah.
were very beautiful,
Hmm.
you know, and so, you know, so in terms of these four performances that you created at Overlapping Documenta in Castle last year, you know, how you know, what is, if you wouldn't mind sharing, you know,
Hmm.
what what has evolved out of these embodied explorations or these performative actions for you?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Much more. Oh, Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
much more awareness of water. Like normally you just drink it because you need to drink water. It's healthy.
Mm,
Um, but what came out of it, that was by moving with water and just very simple ways. I always took a big plastic bag with me, and would, for instance, all the artists were staying in a building, and I decided to go camping because I wanted to be very close to the river. There's a very beautiful river in Kassel, and
mm,
every morning I would swim in the river. I would take water with me. I would even take, when I was invited to be part of a performance of another performer from America, to take the water from the river with me. I took it with in a bag within the bus. So everybody was looking at me like, "What's that girl doing there?" And I
water
would take it. Yeah, what's she doing? Is she trying to carry a fish or something? No, there was no fish in it. It was just water. And so from a lot of places I took water, and also from in the center when I wanted to do the last performance, the water boom. I took water from a gallery that I came across, and I asked. I had met them the day before, and I thought, maybe I can get some water there. They were very friendly, and I took the water to the square, and I did a 5-hour duration with it. So every time when you take water and you move with it with your body, just maybe just simply by holding the bag, it becomes part of you, and you become part of this water, not even thinking about Emoto. But of course, for me, it became this process of knowing the stuff he discovered, seeing the pictures, moving myself with the body, realizing that a human is 74% built of water. Even people say 99%. So that's a lot.
Mhm.
Opinions are different. But I realized more that I am a water creature. I am this flowy creature, although I'm like very like tangible. But can I be this fluid? I'm already it. But can I be in my mind more fluid? And can I be fluid to other people? And also like Lumbung, which was the theme of the documenta, which means like that it's an Indonesian word, and it means that they gather in a village all the rice. Some have a lot, some don't have a lot. They just bring it together and then they share it all. So you take what you need. And I really, really love this theme of the documenta. So I took that for me as well with the water, more like having more conscious of using water or drinking water, or also putting positive words on it, which I invited the public to do so that the water in the little bags would also change and upgrade or update, or however you want to code it, or upload it and give it
Mm,
back to the world. So I learned a lot from water, and I'm still learning from it. Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since our conversation the other day, I've been, every time I've been like drinking some water, I've been going, usquavi.
Oh wow, wow, yeah. So it does work, and yeah, that's nice.
Yes, yeah. And,
Yeah.
I, so, yes, I wondered if, at last year's Flow, we were talking, with Alistair McClellan about the new monograph that has been written about his work, and where he talks about performance actuation, or the empowerment or the self-actualization of the body through the process of performance. I wondered if you had any moments that you would like to share. I know that this kind of step to create a durational piece as well for you was, a bit very much a step forward in your
Mhm.
work last year. But yeah, I don't know if you'd be willing to share any moments of actuations that you had through
Like
the.
moments where I challenge myself, you mean, and I grow from it. Is that what you?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Yeah, well, I had a lot of fear of going to perform on a square, and then even like the square, like when you have the documenta, you have the Friedrichianium, if I say it right, because the pronunciation is a bit difficult. That's the big museum, the well-known one, where also Beuys has planted oak trees.
Mm.
So it has a really big historical name, and I was like, oh, I was very, very scared of doing something so public. So every time when uh, and when I do get the chance, or when I do feel an interest for a certain place, and it is scary, yeah, that is also something that pulls me. So I saw others doing a performance there, and I was like, yes, I want to do something there as well. And the other performances help me towards that. And there was also, I met another performer from another country when I was just visiting the exhibition space. And she told me, oh, I do durationals all the time. I only do durationals. So for her, it was like 1 or 2 hours was nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm only doing two. My longest was 2.5 hours, which was a very good experience for me, because actually when you do a durational, you think maybe, oh, it's so long, what to do with this time, but it's nothing. Like when you do a durational, you get into this, for me at least, into another state of being, much more in flow. You get out of your head and you forget about how it has to look, how it has to be. It gives you a lot of chances and possibilities to go through a layer, another stadium, another openness. So for me, doing a 5 hour durational was like perfect, because it really helped me to, yeah, to really connect deeper and deeper, deeper, because I was entering, like what you saw in the pictures, with the water on my head, which was just a, yeah, just a decision, like, okay, I'm just going to start to feel how that feels, the gravity, and also not able to see the people around me, and just enter this space. And then I laid down and I was singing. I didn't know I was going to do this, but I was opening up, opening up. And even though public, scary, okay, just let it happen. And then the coincidences start to happen. That's the magic, I think, when you are in flow, because things around you also become part of you, and you become part of the surroundings. So they were making music, and at a certain point, the music and my singing became one. It was actually quite nice. And
Mm.
then when they stopped, I was feeling, am I stopping now or not? And I wasn't. I kept going until I really felt like, okay, this is the stop. So it's not me anymore. It's like really something stronger that knows exactly what needs to happen, what needs to make it a good artwork, in a sense, because you're very much in tune. And then I knew only that I was going to make a change to the moment that I would invite public to be part of the work. So I had the big water, and I was already uploading that with charging it, or whatever you want to call it, by just performing with it. And then I had this idea. I wanted to pour them in little plastic bags, give people this white marker, and invite them, when I after I would tell a little bit about Emoto, that also their thinking about water could change, to invite them to write positive wishes or words on it to send into the water, and that the water could copy it or bring it again into the world. So there was this moment, I had just finished this solo, and I was feeling, okay, what is the next step? And then this really old guy, he came, he was, later on we had a talk, and he was, I think, 82 or 85. And he said, whoa, whoa, what just happened here? What is this? So he felt something had happened there, not knowing what I had done there with the water or anything. He was like really excited, and he said, oh, I'm just, tell me what's happened here. So I told him just a little bit, because I didn't really want to give words to everything I just did, but just a little bit. And he said, yeah, I was looking for something like this to happen, and walking at the documenta, and I feel it. I feel something. And I said, well, okay, then this is my sign that you are my first person to ask my question. And he said, oh, what is your question? So then I said, okay, I have the little water bags. I told about Emoto. I wanted to invite him for positivity. And did he have anything that he wanted to share or send into the world? And he was like, yeah, I want to. And I gave him the marker. And so he was the first one to write something down. And I didn't have to look for people. Like every time somebody finished, out of nowhere, another person would come and be interested, and then I collected all the little bags. And then in the end, I did not know yet what to do with them. But because you do the durational, you're in this high concentration mode or focus or
Mm,
like deep listening maybe. I was tuning in like, okay, what is a good end for this? Not thinking, but like really happening. And then I realized, the water can go back to nature. So let's give it to the trees, the oak trees of boys. And
mm,
I like that because then it became a nice circle of the art from then, the art from now, and yeah, and to give something to society or to nature.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and the circle of the bags, in the space.
yeah.
And yes, you described what lambang means for
Hmm.
the audience. Um, so yes, I just so we're getting kind of close to the end. And I'm going to open it up for questions from the audience in a moment. Um, but I wondered, yeah, I love this idea of of this like space in your house where this openness to creativity. And you talked about, this connection between this older gentleman and coming across the performance. you know is there what are your thoughts on the transformation of these spaces before and after a performance? do you
Hmm.
are you do you have thoughts on that? Maybe on this particular site, on this square that you created the lambang
Hmm.
mints?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's very simple in the end. I think everything that we give attention, it grows. So when you give your attention in yourself to a positive thought, it will grow. If you have a negative thought, it will create a whole story, and the whole atmosphere will maybe change where you are, or the people that are around you. If you have certain thoughts about them, maybe you get scared or something. So I think it happens in daily life all the time, that we have a
Mm,
lot of influences on how we perceive things. So also when you're in a space, we think it's just space, it's air. There's nothing that could stick to it. I don't think that's true. I think a lot of things happen in the non-tangible. So the moment when I make this circle, you already have the archetype of the archetype, or how do you say that? Like the primordial. The circle has a certain effect differently than a square. So this circling movement, which I also make, and I walk around there, but it's also visually there. It will empower each other, and then the people will feel that, and they will maybe have an experience of standing outside the circle when they watch my solo, and when they enter the space because they want to write something on it, they are part of this circle. So they will have experiences and I will have experience coming in, coming out, moving. And I think that's building something up. I think experiences and putting your attention to something builds up the structure or the energy or so yeah, I think that and when you do it for 5 hours, it gets stronger, stronger, stronger. So
mm.
I think that the guide said to me when he came in, "What happened here?" And there was not visually not a lot of changements. He just picked up some atmosphere. So yes, I think. And your question was what happened, or that I do think that something happened there, or
Yeah, so I just wondered, what your thoughts were about the transformation of public sites.
yeah, I
You
think
know, the aftermath of a performance.
Yeah. Like tomorrow, I'm gonna participate in Dordrecht with Frans van Lent, Ike Trinks, Jolanda Jansen, a lot of very inspiring performers. And we're going to perform for freedom. So when we had this discussion this week about this, and you also mentioned something that you are doing research for, that places that we can, as groups, transform the energy or the place. I really like that you mentioned that, because I'm much more aware now that I'm working with that always. But yeah, now that I'm going to do this freedom performance tomorrow, I'm even more aware that we have access. We have an access to change a place and to leave it in a better state, and to also give this way to other people. So I think it's very nice that tomorrow with this group we're gonna perform for freedom, and we can, yeah, and can see what is the effect of that. So transformations, yes, I think it happens to a place. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to let the audience know, I've put the link to that event in the chat. So please check that out. And if you're in the Netherlands, maybe make a trip to Dordrecht tomorrow and it's happening from 1300 hours to 1400, which is 1 to 2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And an incredible group of artists will be there. Frans van Lent, Ike Trinks, Jolanda
Jansen.
Yes. And of
Kirsten
course...
Hestisius.
Oh, Kirsten's going to be
Yeah.
there as
Yes,
well.
also there.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
So now I want to, it's that time in and of the hour where we like to offer the audience to ask a question. So please type your questions in the chat for Yvette if you have any. And this, this sense of freedom, we're at a time, in the world that, there's a lot of shifts taking place. So I think, this idea of creating hope and thinking, and placing creativity in the public realm so it can expand, is really vital. And, again, this kind of exchange of positive energy with water that we've been talking about, it's like, it's all circular. So, yeah, do you have, and I mean, one thing that I very much wanted to talk to you about with your practice, and I know we've touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but it's this, this exchange that occurs between you and I think you have a very unique practice in terms of your, the daily practice that you bring to your work gives you a particular access to creating these embodied exchanges with people. That again, have you, maybe there's a specific moment. I know we shared the video with the teenagers earlier in the broadcast, but is there a particular moment where you had an exchange with a member of the public and you thought, oh yes, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing? I mean, I've had those moments,
With another work, you mean?
Yes. Particular moment in your...
Yeah, there's one that comes up. There's probably a lot, but one that immediately comes up is when that was in 2008. I was invited in Germany in a water tower. So there were 3 artists, like 3 floors, and I was in the top. where actually was used to be the water basin. They just took it out. So it was a very beautiful round space. And
they need to invite you back.
yes, they
That
should.
sounds like an amazing space
Yes,
to
that's
be,
true. Yeah,
develop.
that's true. Yeah. So what I did there, I had how shall I say this? I made a construction with the hair made of grass, but then 20 meters long, and I had it hanging out of the window. So when people would come to see the exhibition, they would see me looking out of the window, this long hair, and this, of course, this sort of image of Rapunzel with the long hair. And I would just like look at everybody and like cut it, and then it would all fly away outside. And then they would all enter the building. And the moment when they entered my floor, I would turn around. That was my idea. And I would crawl into the middle part where I could climb on little stairs into a tube and come out of the tube and see the people again. And I wanted to sing for the first time in my life. I had never sung, but I found in that space when I was there in the day, I would try some things. I was like, oh, maybe I can do something with singing. But when I sing, and this was an experimental phase where I discovered like making abstract sounds. Uh, when I followed this sort of inner language came out. So it has the quality of, yeah, it sounds like language, but you cannot hear it. So after this performance, and there were a lot of people gathered there, this woman came to me and she said, wow, well, at first I was very irritated because I heard these sounds and I couldn't understand, and it sounded like words, and I wanted to know what you were saying, but I just could not understand your words. And then she said, so what I liked, but she was really explaining me her whole process. And I said, yes. And then I went into this phase like, okay, everybody's still here. So yeah, then, okay, I have to open myself. I have to open myself. Oh, okay. Oh, these sounds. Okay. If I just decide not to have to understand and just let them come. So she helped herself through this process of resistance, which I do always do something that gives a bit of resistance, and then I hope you open. And this woman told me so beautifully how she did that. She opened herself, and then she was like allowing herself to hear something you don't understand, and allowing herself to let the sounds go deeper in her system, not only in the ears, not only in the brains thinking about it, but letting it dive into her whole being, and let also the frequency or the sequence, how do you say that, the frequency of the sound do something with her. And then she said, yes, then when I was really open for it, I just felt deep happiness, and I was just like, I loved it so much. So it was so nice that she told me this whole journey, and I have heard this more times with my work. I tend to do something, and I think it's also a bit my character. I like to do something that's pushing you a little bit, but that there's enough safety and enough time for you to open up in it. So I'm also in daily life, I'm not a very confrontive person, like bam, but in the end I am like, I'm like pushing you a little bit or turning you a little bit, and then I hope this new process can happen, and that you get actually more access to yourself. So I think my language helped her to get more open in contact with herself. So I heard this in different variations from people who come to me. Yeah, that they go through that. And of course, there's also people who maybe end up not opening at all, or the receiver is always has his own freedom, how open he or she is for art. And that's also totally okay. But this one comes to mind because, yeah, I've heard it more.
Yeah.
And I still like to do this inner language more, but sometimes it's also scary because as a performer, you're very vulnerable. You do I do these things coming from very deep within me, and sometimes people, when they don't understand, it's also like, oh, was it any good then? So I'm also learning now to grow up as a performer, to let go of opinions where, yeah, maybe they don't understand. It's also okay. It's also okay.
Yeah, so I was told, well, one performer shared with me that, often when the public makes a comment about your work, it is about them like reflecting on their own story,
Yeah,
and projecting their own thoughts onto the work with
yeah,
their own needs, and it is a process, it's a journey.
yeah,
But this kind of, I love the fact that you talk about, the accessing this primordial spirit, inside the body. And part of your techniques is also to use vocals and sounds to activate the
yeah.
internal body, isn't it? Do you? I mean, I know that when I perform, as I often kind of go into this whole other space, or sense of myself, which I wouldn't necessarily recognize. Um, do you do you how do you think about this? That energy that, or those spirits that take over while you're performing,
Hmm.
the primordial
Yes. Yeah,
energy.
I think I'm much more truly myself. When I'm performing, I'm much more me than in daily life. I think in daily life I'm more I'm also myself, but when I perform, I think I let go of a lot of layers that are not necessary anymore. I take away masks and I come to this creature. I think I'm more like a creature than just a human being. And this creature is a man and a woman at the same time, or I'm not a woman or a man at all. I become more animal like, but still, it's animal is very superficial. It's not like that, but it's, yeah, it can be like an animal. But there was also a period in my life where I started painting. It was actually when I had headaches. The only thing I could do was paint. And after 3 years, I had made 385 inner portraits. And I made a book of that and I sent it to Portugal. And I had a very nice solo there with these watercolors on paper. And then people also asked me, but because they were all different. And everybody's like, how's that possible? But for me, it's like very normal. I have all these faces within me. I'm much more than just this outside face. And for me, it's the deepest happiness to connect with this primordial, raw being. And I'm very happy that I have a female body and I can also explore the female body, because that's the two core things in my work: exploring this raw primordial being, but also the female power body. Like there's so many layers covering me as a woman that I don't even know what it is really to be a woman. And can I connect to my female organs? That's what I do through Qigong. I do a lot of teachings in connecting with everything in the belly and expressing that. But also when I perform, I just feel this basic instinct to express these layers of me, and get rid of all the unnecessary thoughts about what a woman should look like or how she should act. Or like, even when I started making the sounds, there's a lot of moments I can make very deep sounds and I really sound like a man. And in the beginning I didn't dare doing it because I felt like ugly and not feminine enough. And then I was invited more by my own work. So I can also say that my work is always ahead of me, because I work from intuition. the work is more clever, more wise than me, because it comes from a deeper wise place in me. But it's related to past and future. I always feel like I'm a nomad as an artist. The true creature that I am is living here, but I'm also communicating from the past and communicating from the future to here. So I feel I'm this combination, and yeah, there's still a lot for me to discover in that, and a lot for me to share in that. So
Yes, and to learn from it as well. You
yes,
know, it's
yes,
it's a great happenstance is a great teacher.
yes, yes, for
Our
sure.
eyes are open. Uh,
Yes,
so we have got to the end of the Artist Focus talk for today.
yes.
But I want to thank everybody for listening. And just a couple of announcements that we'd like to make. So next week, for the second Artist Focus, it's going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to have some pauses this spring because of the schedule and the availability of the artists. So on April 8th will be the next Artist Focus with, let me share the flyer, with Dennis Blacker in conversation with Martine Vial. And that will be back at the regular time because the clocks change. The clocks are going to be changing back, so they're in the same 6 hour ahead between Chicago and Europe. And there is, and also we have the open call for flow, embody, and sight. So if you have a public performance practice, or if you do socially engaged work that is thinking about sight and places, please consider submitting a proposal to present your work. And this could be in very different types of formats. We're looking for artists who might be interested in giving a performative lecture, or and we're also accepting proposals for artist presentations. And that will be part of the online program for Flow this September. And we're moving to a hybrid format this year. So we'll have in-person workshops in international cities around the world. So people can sign up in their local city to do a workshop and be mentored by an artist. And then we'll have these miniature public performance festivals happening in each city that will be live broadcast to different watch parties around the world. So again, you know, thinking about this idea of freedom and creativity and hope, really wanting to kind of expand that at this point in time.
Nice.
So please do check out the Equinox link, where Yvette will be performing tomorrow in Dordrecht in the Netherlands. And thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you today, Yvette.
Yes.
Always inspired by your work, your practice, and how you're transforming spaces. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I liked it as well, very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Cheerio, everybody. Have a lovely day. Spread a bit of joy.
Yes, spread some joy.